on today's episode of MotoCheez.
The following movie is rated I.
After dozens of requests, I finally did it, boys. The Lifan XPS 250. Lifan's been around for 24 years. They even build many of the Predator engines for Harbor Freight, and they're in the car market now. The KPX 250 is a single-cylinder, 249cc electronic fuel-injected, air-cooled, overhead cam, counterbalanced engine with a 6-speed transmission. This engine will put out 20 horsepower of 15 foot-pounds of torque. It weighs 333 pounds, has a claimed top speed of 75 miles per hour. With a 3-gallon gas tank, its fuel economy is rated at 84 miles per gallon. It's got a 3-link system, it looks like. Wow, that's impressive. And here's where we start adding up why it's worth more money. Wow, it's got a flat seat. It has a better style rear master cylinder. And the return spring setup and everything for the whole brake is a lot better than the standard Chinese bike. It is indeed fuel injected. There's the injector up front on the right. Throttle body in the back. It is counterbalanced. Looks like it comes with an actual element filter. There's the O2 sensor. So it looks like it's got a head temperature sensor too, a wire that hooks up in there. That's for doing your timing. Your flywheel's behind here. The fuel pump is on this side, underneath the tank. It's definitely a different location than they did it with the Hawk. So the rear sprocket is a 42 teeth 520. And the front sprocket is, doesn't say on there. Not only is that shock a 3-link suspension, but it's also adjustable. So I guess you can get to the adjustment for the spring on the shock here. You should think they do a little better weld where you're going to be looking at it here. Inverted forks, of course. Overhead cam, 2-valve. There's your chain tensioner. Shouldn't have to mess with that. 6-speed transmission, 520H chain. So it's the bigger chain. Some of these upgraded to the 520 chain. Some are still on the 428s. Steel swing arm with the different style adjuster on it. Kind of a Honda style. The plastic is looks like an impact resistant ABS. Nice rack. It's actually solid, not hollow. Under the seat is your ECU EFI module. Looks like a couple relays right there. Probably for the fuel injection. You know what I don't see on this exhaust is a catalytic converter. Since we're nice and level, we'll check the oil level on this. You have to screw the dipstick in all the way. Full, or maybe a hair over. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there is no Kickstarter on this bike, which means it has a DC ignition. Yeah, it's pretty neat how they did the spokes on this. That's definitely the newer style, front and rear. Looks like the head is oiled from a little tube that runs up from the engine. So if you wanted to, you could definitely put an oil cooler on this. There it is, boys. All loaded up, mini truck. So the shipping frame is a little different. but similar. Looks like a throttle tube, handlebar clamps, pickup for the speedometer, and some other stuff. Owner's manual. I actually received my certificate of origin already in the mail like 2 days ago. Tool kit. Battery. It's MTX-9A. It's a little bigger than normal. Rear pegs, or one rear peg. Some assorted hardware. There's the other rear peg. Fork protectors. And mirrors. Front tire. Good sized disc brake there. Looks like a 90-90-21. They even give you a little strap on this one. Both sides have these loop straps holding it from rocking back and forth. Looks like it must lift out of that groove. Stripping the packing material off it a little more. There is no X-Pect writing on this at all. On the Lifan website it showed X-Pect right there. To the guy who said, no, it's not an X-Pect, you are in fact correct. Handlebars are down here. Front fender is here. So the handlebars are definitely better than the norm. It's thick and 1 inch down here for the clamp instead of 7/8. The cage does in fact pop out of here. Front and back, so you can lift it off. Oh man, my stickers are coming off. Well, that's that. So this box will come a little taller than a Hawk and those type of bikes because they ship it with the shock already installed. This sticker fell off too. No sticky. I imagine it goes here. It was laying right here. Wow, it's got a flat seat. That's what everybody wants for the Hawk. I wonder if this will fit on the Hawk. This actually does come with assembly instructions. So we need an Allen head screw to take the side covers off. It is not supplied with one. Hey, that shows an Allen wrench in the tool kit, and I didn't get one. Looks like I got a little birthmark, but it wasn't from shipping. It was from assembly. What the heck, boys? Nothing else that I've seen yet. What do you think, Gizmo? Help me put this all together? No mice, right? So the battery comes empty, and they do not supply the acid, so you got to pick up some battery acid. Doesn't look like there's any rubber grommets. No grommets. Get all 4 of those up in there and tighten them up. I did notice all these welded on nuts, they put grease. If you're not going to carry a passenger, you might not even want to put them on. I guess I'll put them on. So it doesn't tell you how to take the seat off in here. We'll figure it out. I'll go get an Allen wrench for that. I do happen to have a spare from all the reviews that I do. So I'll throw this in the bag with the tools. I have something. That one's a Phillips. there's a screw under there too. Guess they want you to take the seat off. This is an Allen wrench. They didn't make that seat easy to come off, did they? Which means you got to take the back rack off. Yeah, it does come with a rack. Almost like they cross-threaded this one. Wow. Have to fight all the way off. Yep. Nice rack. It's actually solid, not hollow. So it doesn't look like you could put this on a Hawk 250. Now we can get this last screw off. This panel to access our battery compartment. So in your battery compartment here, you have your starter solenoid. So to access the air cleaner, you have to take this whole side off. I took the screws out already. Got to take that bracket off. Take the cover off. Looks like the air hole comes from the other side, huh? It's got a little noise baffle. Okay. So it comes from right there where it draws the air from. A lot of times they put them up in here. As long as that's blocked, I guess it's safe. Looks similar to the Hawk one. I don't have a filter here for the Hawk to compare it, but make sure you get that little tab in there. I don't know, look at that. It's got a little screen on the inside with a baffle. Get that hooked on the back. Snap that in. It's a pretty good fit. And this has a nice rubber O-ring type seal. Pretty airtight box. That's what she said. Get these screws back in there, tightened up. They use a shoulder style washer to hold the side panels on. And it also has a rubber grommet, so you really torque those down and they're not going to loosen up. So there's a little extra engineering on this Lifan. Put that bracket back on there. Put the rear panel back on. It has the little rubber holders, little push clips. Top part's got the little hooks. That's where the screw is. I use them little clip nuts. Temporarily put my handlebar clamps on low because I don't have much height in my garage, as you can see. And at least I could put my front wheel on and then roll this off. Looks like that has the protective covers for the decals. If you want to pull them off, I'll probably leave them on for a while. Let's get this front wheel on. There's a spacer in the kit of hardware that's sent. That's going to go on this side. This brake caliper is loose. I don't see a keeper in there, so may have to spread those brake pads. It's missing a sensor. Here's the magnetic sensor. That has to line up with that when you put it together. So let's get this front wheel on. So I use the straps that they gave you to hold this bike down on the top when it was shipped. Hold these down here when I jack this up so it doesn't tip over on me. So take a little tension off that bolt so I can take that out. So I'm up as high as I can go. I don't know if I'm going to clear that. Let's see when I put that wheel up there. Oh yeah. Put that spacer in there. Before we get the wheel on, we could take it off completely and put it on after. Line up those tabs for the electronic speedometer. Line all this up. It does have a little tab right there. They want you to put it in, it looks like that. And then we'll slide our axle bolt through. Line everything up. Slide it through. Use the nut that's in the hardware kit, not the one that was holding it on the frame. Floating caliper. Probably got to open them up a little. Got to open the pads. Get in there. Our screwdriver and lightly prime apart without marking. Now it slides on very easily. We'll put these bolts. Tighten that axle nut to about 50-60 foot-pounds, I would guess. Nothing's binding. Everything looks like it is where it's supposed to be. And now we can let it down gently. It gives me a little bit of room. I guess I can get it off from there. I have to get the ramp. I'm gonna hook my controls up temporarily, just so I have front brakes for when I let this down. There's two of these clamps in the hardware kit. The thinner one is for the front brake. The wider one is for the clutch. The front brake also takes the bigger bolts. The clutch takes the thinner, smaller bolts. May as well put these fork guards on. Three of these pan Allen head socket screws go on to hold these on. Probably would have been easier to put these on before we put the front wheel on, but you can still get in there. Yeah, you can do it, but this side's a little tight. So there's a brake hose support that connects to there and holds your brake hose from getting hit or caught on anything. It has a little shield over the brake line. It's showing that brake line going on the inside of that front fork, and that definitely is not right. I think this protective tube that slides has to go, when the forks are fully extended, up into here, so that when you do compress the forks, that slides up and down there and it protects the brake line. So this bracket you have to expand, put it on the speedometer sensor wire with that tab up, so it locked itself in there, and then you tighten that on there. Looks like a cafe racer with the handlebars low. So I used some distilled water since this didn't come with the acid. Kind of weird because this style battery that has self-piercing usually comes with a rack with the 6 different cells that you just push in, and it wasn't in the box. Throw it on a charger for about 2 hours. So the handlebar has 2 dots on it that you line up with that to center it, and then if you want to adjust it later on, you can. So just like the other side, it has that little dot that you have to put that little pin into to keep it from spinning. Put your clutch lever on with the arrow up. Not too bad. Put the blinkers on. The nut is pre-installed, sitting there on the wire behind it, so you got to get in there and start it and then turn it on and tighten it. Can't quite get in there to tighten up that nut, so I have to take this headlight fairing off. And that's how you adjust your headlight. You just have to loosen the bottom and you can flip that forward so you can get in there and tighten that. They don't give you a big enough wrench in a kit to tighten that. 17 millimeter will do it. Now for the throttle tube, take the bolts out. If your cable's stuffed all the way to the end like that, this will pop out. You can pull the slack here. That pulls the slack off of your throttle body. And you can push that back in there and put your tube on. So put it together on handlebars. Tighten them bolts up. Don't push it all the way in. Push it in and pull it out just a little bit so you notice rubber isn't hitting. And that's about how much slack you should have. Turn all the way to the left, turn all the way to the right. Make sure you still have that slack, and you're good. Pull the protective plastic off. While we're waiting for the battery to charge, we'll go through the manual here. Registration card. So if you're wondering whether you need to change the oil when you get this bike or not, apparently not. It has 1540. As long as it's in the range of the temperatures you're going to be using it in, 1540 is pretty much dead center. 2050 if you're running in some hotter areas, but you definitely want to get the recommended oil. It says it should be SJ or API class. Has a fault code table should you need it. There's your maintenance schedule. It looks like engine oil every 1,000 miles. We're going to change the oil after 100 miles, considering it's a break-in. Looks like it says to inspect the valve gap 1,000 miles. So the valve clearance should be 0.08 millimeter for the intake and 0.10 millimeter for the exhaust valve. 10 to 20 millimeter slack on the clutch lever. Chain slack should be 10 to 20 millimeters. Recommended tire pressure is 29 for the front and 32 for the rear. I usually put about 24 on the front and 28 on the rear. Rear brake pedal should have 20 to 30 millimeter free play. So this is showing that it should come with that electrolyte battery acid, because that is the style to fill that battery, but mine did not. I also didn't have that cap there, so I'm gonna have to make something up. The box was sealed. Nice schematic wiring diagram. And that's it. While I'm in here, I can hook up a little trickle charger cord. Positive first, right boys? I can't turn the key on until we put some fuel in that tank, because you don't want to run that fuel pump dry. Not good for it. Little grease there, it looks like. There's the itty bitty fuel pump in there. Just a baby. That's a welded brace. It's full now. It says 87 octane or higher. I usually put 89 in these. Let's check for leaks after we primed it up. I don't smell anything and I don't see anything, so that's a good sign. We'll try it. Let's see if it starts. This has to be out. Forgot one of these tabs. We'll try that. Prime that fuel pump one more time. Huh, it's up to pressure. Nice looking dash. It's in neutral. Well, guess the battery's not charged enough. pretty good. We'll let it warm all the way up and then shut it off. Do 2 or 3 warm-up cycles. Or we might just jump on and take a ride. Yeah, that sounds better. Tire pressure's a little low. Front's a little low too. Put like 24. Before I put the seat on, I figure I showed a fuse box. Looks like they give you 2 spares. Fix the threads on this for that rack. 8mm by 1.25 pitch. A little better. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Much better. So I ended up with these extra parts. I don't know where they go. That seal, I assume, is a fork seal. This does have a toolbox right there, so put some tools in there. Definitely more power. Oh man, rained all day yesterday, so I could probably power lift this. First gear is nice and low because it's 6-speed. Yep. Everything checks out. Nice dash though. So when you go down in the first, it actually has a little stop. You know, some of them have that slack behind. Fifth or 6, nice high 6 gear, feels like. Yeah, it definitely has more power than a Hawk DLX. I like that 6-speed transmission. First gear is so nice and low. Feels like a nice amount of torque. We'll get it on a nice open road, see what each gear will do. Still breaking it in, so really don't want to beat it too much. Maybe after 200 miles or 100 miles. Suspension is nice. The seat's really comfortable. You could sit back, doesn't have that hump in the seat. And it's actually pretty comfortable so far. Brakes are good, front and rear. You definitely feel the extra power. So first gear, 30 for second, up to 8 grand. 45 for third. Almost 60 for fourth. So cruising at 60, looks like about 6,200 RPMs. See if we can pull this in fifth. A 55 is about 6 grand. Just under 6 grand. I think they got their sprockets just right for gearing. Huh. I didn't put my rear view mirrors on, boys. Why didn't you tell me? Good spot to just sit and park. I didn't put my rear view mirrors on. Definitely gonna need those. I like the handlebars. They feel like they're a good height. I'll go over all the controls, but everything's kind of normal except this. This is your 4-ways hazards. And it has a little passing switch there. High and low are here. Blinkers, of course, push to cancel. Horn, on and off, start. It's all pretty basic. Does have some good torque. I mean, 6 gears pulling up those hills. And they got a nice ratio in between each gear. Suspension is nice. It's definitely better than DLX suspension. Better than the Bras 250 suspension. The handle's nice too. Yep, I think I found my new favorite Chinese bike. This literally feels like my CRF 250 Honda did. Might have to bring this down to Florida and race Brad. Yeah, first gear is low. It's a pretty bumpy dirt road, so this is good. Test the suspension. One other thing I noticed is the foot pegs are a little better than the typical Hawk, Bras, and all those frames. They put them a little bit further back, or maybe the seating is a little bit further forward. So when you stand up, it doesn't feel like awkward. It feels awkward on Hawk, the Bras, the TBR 7, all those. You know, if you want to stand up and go over the bumps, this is definitely in the right spot. There's something about those. I think they're a little further forward. I've mentioned it in my other videos. Yeah, very, very nice, very smooth. They did good with that 3-link suspension on the rear. I don't think I need to even touch that rear spring for adjustment. Feels like for my weight, it's right on. Like I said, I'm 235 pounds. Good job, Lifan. And that's why you pay a little more money than the standard budget Chinese bikes. I'm sure you can map this. Maybe someone already has something out there for remapping this computer if you want to squeak a little bit more out of it, like we did on the Hawk DLX. The engine's nice and smooth too. Counterbalanced, of course. I mean, you could feel a little bit of vibration. Sometimes you get the vibration resonance through the bars at certain RPMs. This feels pretty good. Gearbox feels really good. It's not ratchety or anything. Open it up a little bit here just to see. Geez, almost hit 70, or maybe we did. I saw a brake light, so I had to look up. And I don't have any rear view mirrors to see if I'm being followed. So yeah, we hit 70. I don't know how accurate this is. We'll figure that out too. Feels like it might be like the rest of them, 2 to 3 miles an hour off on the fast side. The engine's super quiet too. The exhaust is nice and quiet. Very nice. Another thing, this kickstand is definitely too high. You can't put it down until you're off the bike because of suspension. I might cut a little off. Look at. Motor Rider's gonna try it out. What do you think?
Not too bad. That pulls.
You can definitely feel a difference in power, huh?
Oh yeah.
And that 6 gear is nice.
Yeah, it does. It pulls at 6 gear.
Yeah. Smooth.
Yeah, definitely smooth.
Even a ride is smooth.
Yeah, felt good.
Take a ride and see how accurate the speedometer is. What do I have? 13 miles I got on it now. What? Why is that on kilometers? What in the world? No, 100 kilometers is 62. Now it's actually reading miles per hour, but it says kilometers per hour. So 43, 45, so yeah, it's 2 to 3 off. It does have a little bit of lag when you hit the throttle. Like just a little tiny bit. Oh, I forgot to mention, my wife says, that looks like a Kawasaki being green. Suspension is nice. It does pretty good on these bumps. The heck is that? It's a porcupine. Holy mackerel. I know it's kind of gross, but you don't see many porcupines around here. You didn't make it. Quiet and smooth. That was Dumpy's house, if he's still there. Last I heard he was. Somebody had a leak. Pretty good one. Definitely absorbs the bumps better than a DLX. I suppose the front forks feel about the same, but the rear suspension is definitely better than any of the other China bikes that I've had. Oh, someone's got a scooter bundled up. It's like 80 degrees out. Maybe he doesn't want to be seen. That was a good ride. I like that way better.
Yeah, so good.
You don't have to fight the traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, this kickstand's definitely too high. Might chop a little off. Checking in the manual, and it doesn't say anything about that filter on the side. Well, what I assume is a filter on the side. So I'm going to take that cover off and see if there's actually a filter in there. Yeah, well, got a little bit of stuff. Have to clean that off. There's some of that break-in residue. I don't see a number on it. You'd think they'd put it in the book. So honestly, this debris is really nothing to worry about since it is new. So anything that was in the crankcase when it was being built will be collected here. Now my next oil change, or after the break-in oil, if I get a lot more like this, I'm gonna have to inspect it and see. Looks like paint chips and everything else. So after cleaning it off, looks like it's a reusable, cleanable type because there's no element in there. It's a nice super fine screen, and it does look like it has the coarse screen there on the engine, and that's typically where the CG core screen is. I wonder if this has an oil slinger or not. Probably not. That's probably why they put that fine mesh screen filter. So when you change your oil, definitely clean that screen. This has 2 O-rings and a groove, and of course the oil hole. So it doesn't really matter which way you put this cover on. I'd still try to line up the oil hole with that when I put it back in. Oil hole there is on the left side, and you don't have to line it up, but I'm going to. And then there's the other hole. It goes out through the side hole and in through that hole. Let's see if any big chunks got down in here. Don't look like it. Looks like that mesh caught the entire thing. I guess in the maintenance schedule it does say oil filter, check and replace at 6,000 miles. I'd clean it every oil change. Easy to get to. Now it comes down to my opinion of this. Is it worth $2,900 when Hawk DLXs are $1,900 and change? I say yes. Between the 6-speed transmission, having a real 249cc instead of 230cc engine, overhead cam and valves, of course. They both have fuel injection. This fuel injection seems to be a little bit better than what's on the Hawk DLX. Front forks are the same. Rear 3-link suspension is an excellent addition to this. I mean, you can definitely feel it soak up the bumps on the back roads and dirt roads. Has a nice quiet exhaust. The brake lever set up with that newer master cylinder, that's a plus. I like having that screen instead of having to take off every 10,000 miles. You're supposed to take that cover off on a DLX and clean that oil slinger in there. This has a nice fine mesh screen, reusable. Wasn't too impressed with the welds on this. They're just not pretty, but they look like they had good penetration. They look like they'll definitely hold. The rear swing arm is better. That's a much stronger swing arm than the square box. It comes with the 520 chain, which is the bigger chain, so it should last longer. I like the looks of it. It comes with a flat seat, which is nice. LED headlights and blinkers. I wish it came with a DOT knobby, but a lot of people like those 50/50 tires. They're okay, not for the type of riding I like to get into. Lifan builds a good bike. Has a nice clear dash that you can see even in direct sunlight. I have 51 miles on it now. So if you long press this button, it'll set your clock. Then tap it to change the time. Then long press it for the next. Tap it to change the clock. Then long press it again, and you're out. This button on the left will go between your trip and your miles. Your tachometer is across the top. Miles per hour tells you what gear you're in on the right, and your fuel is on the lower right. It's a pretty clear display. This does come with a rack. A lot of them don't. It's a shame that this is not California compliant. No, it's not. They did good with the front brake hose. They use a nice stiff solid brake hose so you don't have any sponginess like the basic Hawk and Hawk X and some of the others. Same with the rear. Nice stiff reinforced brake hose. So I give it 2 thumbs up. If somebody asks, is it worth $1,000 more than a Hawk DLX? I say yes. To me, I say it's worth it. All the extras that you get on it. You can get this for less than $2,900 using my MotoCheez discount code at txpowersports.com. So if you want one, I'll have the link down below. I'll be doing many more videos as I ride on this. Maintenance, oil changes, valve adjustments when I get there. It's my favorite China bike right now. And if anybody knows if someone did any kind of mapping on a computer yet for the EFI, let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. That's right.
Hey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Hit that bell if you want new notifications on new videos. Links for products used are in the description and on MotoCheez.com. Thanks for watching.